There is a terrifying secret buried in the roots of Western mythology. A secret that every king, every warrior, and every hero eventually learns too late. Victory isn't won on the battlefield. Long before the first sword is drawn, the war has already been decided. It was decided at the river's edge, in the dark, by a woman who doesn't care about your courage or your cause. She is the Phantom Queen, and in the ancient world, she was the silent partner in every empire's rise, and the architect of every hero's fall. In ancient lore, there are those who seek power, and those who are power. And then, there is the Morrigan. She is the only entity in the Celtic world that the High Kings feared more than death itself. Because she doesn't just take your life, she takes your legacy. Today, we're entering the Manor to uncover why the most powerful gods in history refused to move without her blessing, and why the one hero who dared to say no became a cautionary tale for the next 2,000 years. In the heart of the ancient world, there is a boundary where the mist never lifts. It is here, at the river's edge, that the Great War is won or lost. She is known by many names: the Phantom Queen, the Mistress of Ravens. But to the doomed, she is simply the Washer. Imagine you are standing on the edge of a fog-drenched river in ancient Ireland. Across the water, you see a woman kneeling, washing blood-stained armor. She doesn't look up, but you feel a chill that has nothing to do with the mist. You've just encountered the Washer at the ford, one of the many faces of the Morrigan. If you find her at the ford, do not look at her face. Look only at what she holds in her hands. Because if she is scrubbing the blood from a breastplate that looks exactly like your own, you are already a ghost. But who is this Phantom Queen? To the ancient Celts, she was the goddess of the battlefield, a shapeshifter who could turn into a crow to hover over the dying. She wasn't just a bringer of death, though. She was the weaver of fate itself. She decided which kings would rise and which would fall. The name An Morrígan is often translated as the Great Queen or the Phantom Queen. Think of her like a title rather than a single person. She is a collection of sisters, the Morrígan, who act as one. She belongs to the Tuatha Dé Danann, the ancient supernatural race of Ireland. She isn't a human who became a goddess. She is a primal force of the land that existed before humans took over. The Tuatha Dé Danann are said to have arrived in dark clouds from the north, landing on the mountains of Ireland. But the Morrigan and her sisters are unique because they are often seen as the daughters of Ernvas. Ernvas is an ancient mother goddess figure who represents the raw, primal earth of Ireland. So, while the race of the gods came from the sky with their magic, the Morrigan is their connection to the actual soil and blood of the island. She is the land asserting itself through the gods. In the Tuatha Dé Danann, she wasn't a foot soldier. She was the high priestess of psychological warfare. Think of her as the immune system of Ireland. The Tuatha Dé Danann were the ruling class, but the Morrigan was the force that ensured the island stayed magical and dangerous. To look upon the Morrigan is to look into a broken mirror. She is not a single queen, but a trinity, 3 sisters, 3 shadows, 3 ways to die. In the ancient texts, she is the triple goddess, a shifting force of nature that proves a woman's power is never just one thing. To understand the war she wages, you have to understand that she is rarely just one person. While the names can change depending on the legend, they usually appear as Badb, Macha, and Nemain. First, there is Badb. She is the frenzy. Known as the battle crow, she is the one who causes panic among soldiers. When you hear the cry of a crow over a conflict, that's Badb, influencing the tide of war through fear and frenzy. She does not wait for the battle to end. She feeds on the chaos while it's still warm. When a warrior feels that sudden cold prickle of terror in their spine, that is Badb's shadow passing over them. She is the psychological edge of war, the voice in your head that whispers run when you should stand. She is the scavenger of souls, ensuring that nothing, not even a hero's pride, goes to waste. Then there is Macha. She represents the connection between the land and the right to rule. She is a goddess of sovereignty and fertility, but she has a sharp edge. She is the sovereign, the protector of the land. If Badb is the death of the soldier, Macha is the life of the kingdom. She represents the right to rule, a power so potent it can curse an entire bloodline for generations. But do not mistake her protection for kindness. Macha is a warrior queen of ice and iron. She reminds us that the land doesn't belong to the king. The king belongs to the land, and she is the land. Finally, there is Nemain, the frenzy. She represents the sheer chaos of battle. She is said to shriek so loudly that hundreds of men would die of pure fright. She represents the fog of war, the moment a soldier loses their mind and can no longer tell friend from foe. Together, these three sisters show us that the Morrigan isn't just about death. She is about the intense, raw energy of life, transformation, and the consequences of our actions. Whether three or one, the message is clear. She is a force that cannot be contained or easily categorized. Finally, there is Anu, the mother, the source. She is the oldest pulse of the earth, the one who provides plenty in times of peace and demands sacrifice in times of famine. While Badb and Macha focus on the carnage and the crow aspects of war, Anu represents the land itself. She is the mother of the gods. Because the Morrigan is a collective title, the Great Queen, the sisters often bleed into one another. Anu is the glamour that connects the goddess to the earth, while her sisters connect her to the blood spilled upon it. In many scholarly interpretations, Anu is actually considered one of the three sisters that make up the Morrigan trinity. In the Lebo Gabala Eren, known as the Book of Invasions, Anund is listed as another name for the Morrigan. This suggests that Anu isn't just a sister, but perhaps the truest name of the entity before she puts on her war mask. Unlike other war gods who just smash things with hammers, the Morrigan rarely fights. She manipulates. She uses glamour, psychological warfare, and prophecy to decide who wins before the fight even starts. This is the part that connects back to Anu. The Morrigan isn't just scary bird lady. She is the protection of the soil. Her territory is Ireland. When she's angry, the land itself becomes hostile. Famine, fog, blood in the water. She is the dark mother archetype your soul recognizes, the one who gives life only so she can eventually reclaim it. Together, they are a storm with no center. A goddess who can be your lover in the morning, your general by noon, and your executioner by dusk. When she uses glamour or Fifthfath in Irish lore, the battlefield stops making sense. You look at the brother-in-arms standing next to you. Suddenly, his face begins to melt and rot, or he takes on the appearance of the man who killed your father. You swing your sword at a monster, only to realize too late it was your best friend. When we say she's a primal force, it's because she represents the cycle of life, death, and decay. The sky gods brought the light, but she brought the shadow that made the light meaningful. If the Dagda is the good god who provides the harvest and the life-giving cauldron, the Morrigan is the great queen who demands the price for that life in blood and battle. They are the ultimate power couple of the Tuatha Danann. The Dagda has his massive club. One end kills, the other restores life. And the Morrigan has her threefold nature. Together, they control the entire cycle of existence in Ireland. Their meeting at the River Unshin on Samhain is one of the most cinematic moments in all of lore. It's recorded in the Cálmóú Tíread, and it plays out like a high-stakes supernatural thriller. It's the week before the great battle against the Fomorians. The Dagda, the leader of the Tuatha Danann, is scouting the area near the River Unshin in Sligo. The veil between worlds is at its thinnest because it's Samhain. He sees a woman standing in the river. She is described as having 1 foot on each bank of the Unshin. She is washing the blood-stained gear of soldiers. But because it's the Dagda, she isn't just an omen. She's an equal. They unite there in the river. In Irish lore, this isn't just a love story. It's a legal and magical contract.
The river runs red before a single blade has been drawn. Is it the blood of my people you wash on the Fomorians?
I wash the fate of those who are already dead.
I face the void between the stars and the hunger of the deep earth. I don't fear your shadow. I seek the victory it brings.
Victory is a demanding mistress. She requires a price and a promise.
Once the ritual is complete, she drops the glamour and gives him the intelligence report of the century. She tells him exactly where the Fomorians will land. She promises to use her magic to drain the blood from the hearts of the enemy leaders. The Morrigan was validating his right to lead. She was saying,
"The earth of Ireland accepts you as its protector."
without her blessing, the Tuatha Danann were just squatters. With it, they were the rightful owners. She hands him 2 handfuls of the enemy's blood as a token of her promise. She dissolves into a murder of crows that fly toward the enemy camp. In Celtic tradition, a king couldn't truly rule unless he was blessed by the goddess of the land. If the land didn't accept the king, the crops would fail, the cows would go dry, and the people would lose every battle. Why Samhain? Samhain was the opening between the old world and the new. By performing this rite on that specific night, they were ensuring that the upcoming year would be one of victory and fertility. It was like recharging the magical battery of the entire island. If the Dagda is her partner in power, Cú Chulainn was her obsession, the one mortal who dared to say no to a goddess. She was obsessed with his warp spasm, his berserker rage. She wanted that power for the Tuatha Danann. He was a human who could look like a monster. The Morrigan was a goddess who could look like a human. They were 2 sides of the same shifting coin. He is the absolute final boss of Irish mythology. If the Morrigan is the goddess of war, Cú Chulainn is the god of the battlefield in human form. He wasn't just a man, though. He was the son of the god Lu and a mortal princess. This gave him speed, strength, and a beauty that was said to be mesmerizing until he got angry. While Cú Chulainn is at his lowest, defending a ford alone against an entire army, a beautiful young woman in a multicolored cloak approaches him. She claims to be the daughter of King Buan and offers him her love and her wealth. he rejects her bluntly, saying,
I don't have time for the pieces of a woman in the middle of a war.
in Celtic myth, rejecting a goddess of sovereignty is like rejecting the land itself. She tells him,
It will be the worst for you when I come against you.
she doesn't just attack him with a sword. She uses her shape-shifting to destroy his focus during his most dangerous fight. She shifts into a massive eel and wraps herself around his legs in the river to trip him. He crushes her ribs with his toes. She shifts into a gray wolf and stampedes cattle toward him. He stones her in the eye. She shifts into a red, hornless heifer leading a stampede. He breaks her leg with a slingstone. Even though he wins these small skirmishes, he sees an old, hunched woman milking a cow. She has the same injuries he gave the eel, the wolf, and the heifer. He doesn't recognize her. She offers him milk 3 times. After each drink, he says,
A blessing of gods and non-gods be upon you.
because a hero's blessing has the power to heal divinity. His words accidentally heal her ribs, her eye, and her leg. She reveals herself and laughs, telling him,
You have just healed your own death.
when Ku Kulon is finally mortally wounded in his last battle, he ties himself to a pillar stone with his own intestines so he can die standing up, facing his enemies. His enemies are too afraid to approach, even as he stops moving. They only know he is truly dead when a large, black crow, the Morrígan, lands on his shoulder. She didn't kill him. She waited for him. She was the final witness to his legend. When he rejected her, he wasn't just rejecting a woman. He was rejecting the divine upgrade she offered. That final moment where she sits on his shoulder. In some interpretations, that's actually an act of respect. She waited until he was gone to claim him, ensuring no mortal enemy could say they struck the final blow while he was still conscious. She guarded his body until his legend was sealed. If you respect her and make the right sacrifices, like the Dagda did, she gives you everything. If you ignore her or treat her like she's just a woman, she will break you. She is the reminder that fate always has the final word. At the very end of the second battle, right after the Morrígan helped the Tuatha Dé Danann defeat the Fomorians, she proved that in the game of thrones and gods, pride is the only thing more dangerous than a sword. She stood upon the mountaintops and delivered 2 prophecies. The first was a song of peace, a vision of a world filled with abundance and harmony. But the second was a chilling warning. She spoke of a time when the seasons would blur, when honor would vanish, and when the world would grow cold and weary. She saw that all things, even the greatest empires, eventually return to the earth. This is the essence of the Morrígan. She is the shadow that makes the light visible. She reminds us that life is a cycle of battle and peace, death and rebirth. To honor her is to accept the world as it is, raw, powerful, and ever-changing. They call her a war goddess, but that is a half-truth. The Morrígan is a goddess of sovereignty. She is the land itself, and the land is a jealous lover. In the lore of the Manor, power always comes with a price. To be the Queen of Thorns is to be rooted to the soil. You can decide who lives and who dies. You can shift your shape 1,000 times, but you can never truly leave the river's edge. Every drop of blood spilled in her name is a weight she has to carry for eternity. This is the Queen's curse, to see the end of every hero, to wash the armor of every lover, and to remain while everything else turns to dust. This is why she is the Phantom Queen. She is the memory of every war that was ever fought for a scrap of land or a moment of glory. She doesn't just represent the death of the body. She represents the death of the era. When we look at her, we aren't just looking at a myth. We are looking at the cost of holding on to power in a world that wants to move on. She is the shadow in the corner of the throne room, reminding every king that his time is alone, and she is the one who comes to collect. So, the next time you see a crow watching you from a fence post, don't look away. Ask yourself, what truth am I avoiding? What battle is worth fighting? And are you ready to claim your own sovereignty? If you want to see how the archetype of the dark sorceress evolved into the most dangerous woman in Arthurian legend, click right here to enter the Manor of Morgan Le Fay, the making of a witch. Thanks for watching.